Welcome into Why So Sidious, a nerd podcast. This is our next stop on our road to Secret Wars. So we've got like 3 volumes of New Avengers already and 4 volumes of Avengers. So today's volume 5 of Avengers. And yeah, all leading to Secret Wars. We are at Why So Sidious Pod, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, all the good stuff. So go check us out. All right, well, let's get into the comic review. So far, I mean, with 3 volumes of New Avengers, 4 of Avengers, we've basically seen the incursions. We've seen Infinity, a big event there. We've seen both basically in the Avenger comics. It's been about like building this Avengers machine, right? That's kind of been the theme throughout the Avengers, while the New Avengers theme is incursions. Reed is searching into the multiverse. Dr. Doom, very interested in incursions. And full spoiler alert going forward as well. We might even talk about the mysterious Raboom Alal, which is revealed to be the kind of big bad of this whole series during Time Runs Out, leading right into Secret Wars. And it's an old comic, and a lot of us probably know who the hell that is. But just in case, I could say for sure these Avengers books are not as good as the New Avengers books. Would you agree?
Sorry. Yeah, I would agree. It took a little bit longer for me to get into it. By the end of this last issue, I was like ready to keep reading. But the first few volumes, it was like noticeable. Like there was no problem. I picked it up, I started reading, and I wasn't putting it down because I loved it. Especially the first 2 volumes, I think were amazing coming out of this Hickman run. So it definitely didn't grab you right off the bat like it did in the other ones.
Right. And now we finally see the 2 stories starting to cross over, not necessarily the characters, but the concepts. We start out this one in like such a random issue that it felt so separated from the rest of it, because we see Rhodey suiting up in an Iron Man suit, Franklin Richards, and I think that's got to be the world that the Franklin Richards that keeps showing up randomly, like in the Hickman run. I kind of think that's that Franklin Richards. That's just a guess.
I thought he said Nathaniel. It was Franklin.
Oh, maybe it could have been Nathaniel.
I'm okay. Sure. I'm not confident either. I wrote down Nathaniel in my notes, but I'm not confident. Isn't Nathaniel Kang?
Nathaniel is the dad. It could be Kang.
Okay. Because it's in 3030, which that whole thing threw me off here too. I don't know. I was confused, I guess, how there's a roadie in 3030.
Yeah, like this
down the road.
Little chunk of it just didn't make sense, because it certainly doesn't play into anything in the future. If that was that Franklin Richards, I mean, all he said was like, no, don't break the rules of time. Don't do it. And once Rhodey takes off, he's like, all right, you have 1 chance at this. Do your best. I mean, it just didn't really mean anything. And, we've read this before. We know those characters or that timeline doesn't show up. But anyway.
We did actually. So Rhodey was in that. I know there was an Iron Man Rhodey talking to Nathaniel Richards at the Baxter buildings. But then in that same issue, it revealed that it was actually Tony's granddaughter under the Iron Man suit.
Right.
So obviously Tony and Rhodey had a kid. And, but she said it's his granddaughter. And again, I'm like, how is it Tony Stark's granddaughter if you're from 3030? That's 1,000 years for just a couple of, generations to be born there. So I was just super confused by that whole issue regarding that. I get she kind of helped him like turn the planet into a weapon by harnessing that rogue planet that was flying after them. I still didn't quite get that. She somehow caught it, and it's existing in the same place as their Earth now, acting as like a crazy battery that they can harness all this energy from. Again, didn't understand any of it, but like, she shows up, helps them harness this, and then dips, and now the Earth is apparently a weapon for Tony. But yeah, I just didn't get any of the background to it. It was very confusing for me.
Yeah, that was really weird. And that was the only issue with Assad Ribic on art, the artist of Secret Wars. And then like they keep switching. We have Deodato? No. Deodato Jr., and then most of it is Salvador Maroca. But that one being Ribic, when Ribic and Hickman are together, it always feels really, because I mean, I'm just used to it. Hickman and Ribic did Secret Wars, and they also did Avengers vs. Aliens recently, and a bunch of issues. I love the combo of them two. It's just that was a confusing issue. The whole purpose of that thing was to give Earth this random energy source, and it was so bizarre how that happened. It's just this planet is coming to Earth. It's like out of its own solar system's gravity pull, launched
Right.
towards Earth. And their solution was to somehow allow it to not crash into Earth, but physically occupy the same space as Earth, and then turning that into a massive energy source for Earth.
Yeah, they just didn't really explain at all, which I guess you don't want to get into the weeds to explain. But it was like, I don't know, they phase it into less. I don't know. I don't understand how it worked. But the art, I like the art in this issue. It was solid. You said this is the guy who does a lot of Secret Wars with him later down the road.
Only that first issue. Only that issue
okay.
with Rhodey. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the art in that issue.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, the New Avengers art has been bad lately. Remember that last one we did? It was pretty gnarly. And I think the next one for New Avengers is that same artist. But
they are, because I was looking through it. So if you get the full collection, there's Avengers 24, and then it's New Avengers 3 issues in a row before you get back to Avengers 25. And those 3 New Avengers issues are all very distinctly different art styles. And as soon as I saw it, it triggered, because I've read this before, and it triggered that like, oh yeah, I did not like that art in those issues.
Yeah. So we move on to AIM, experimenting with some kind of multiversal machine, of course. And I am really confused about the map maker's role in this. So we'll jump to this, because it's actually revealed at the end of this book that these weird creations that I don't know, I couldn't understand like the source of those creations, but the ones that looked like Avengers,
Right.
like AI bots,
the adaptoids. Yeah.
they weren't created by AIM, were they? Or they were?
I believe they were, which AIM, I don't know. I can't take AIM seriously. I always think of Robot Chicken anytime I see AIM in these comics, because they're always doing stupid stuff too. The scientists are always like, there's always some dumb scientists making these mistakes and just like are just getting mobbed by anybody they're facing. I don't know. Most of the time I've seen them, I just feel like I always take them as a joke. But I think they did create the adaptoids. Yeah, they did, because what they did, it showed a flashback to the previous issues we've read in Perth, where the Avengers were all knocked out and AIM was going around collecting all of their DNA. And then they brought all that DNA back to their labs, and then that's what they used to use these adaptoids that had all of these features of all the they look like what would happen if your 7-year-old grabbed all of his Marvel action figures, ripped all the limbs off, and then jammed them together into random bodies and random places. It was just like Spider-Man mixed with Thor, mixed with Iron Man, mixed with but yeah, so they did create it from that DNA they collected there.
Yeah, I didn't like them, but it was kind of interesting how by the end you found out that they are the map makers. So
yeah,
they basically gain sentience and decide to start exploring the multiverse against their creator's wishes. Like specifically, they've gained their own will, and they start using that multiversal machine and exploring the universe, and they deem themselves a newly created explorer class, like they evolved recently. Right. And then they just go travel the multiverse, and they find this place of being, this like habitat, something, this building that's full of people like them. And then once they walk in, the maybe leader of who was already there comes up to them, and they're like, he comes to confirm that they are in fact on their own will and not according to a master's will. Once they get that confirmation, they're like, you're good to go, join the map maker. So it's like these dudes apparently have been like created like that in multiple universes, and have been coming together slowly throughout time recently. And that is really interesting. It was just cool to learn that, although I didn't care for them like as a part of the story.
I didn't until the very end. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then once the map makers was brought into it, I was like, well, hold on now. All right, this is important. And also you're telling me that AIM was behind the creation of map makers somehow in a weird circular timeline, or I don't know how it works. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I don't feel like even the map makers they evolved into, I felt like they looked different in the earlier Infinity runs that we were reading with the Black Swans and everything. The map makers didn't look exactly like they did in this issue there.
Well, now we could assume they just keep evolving, and
they
changing.
just evolve. Yeah, fair enough.
And I guess let's repeat it, because map makers are, when an incursion happens, the sky is either red or blue. If it's red, they are called black priests, and black priests are coming to kill them. If it's a blue sky, they are map makers, and they are slightly different in their motivations. Like I know the blue sky, the map makers just come down to kill both, like all existence on both incursion worlds for some reason. They just want full death, everyone dead. And the black priests, I think they're just kind of trying to pick a plan. I don't know what the black priests are doing either. Anyway, these are these two beings that come to our Earth every time an incursion happens, I think. So it's a really strange concept. I could do without the matchmakers. I wonder why they included two different things like that during these incursions. And since we're rereading this whole thing, we'll probably figure it out later.
I hope, because this isn't my first time reading through this. And I've now read the map maker and builders and Black Swan part of Infinity multiple times, and I still wouldn't be able to explain it. I still wouldn't with confidence. Like, I know the Black Swans they're the female black and white characters that ended up worshiping Rabu Malal, and it leads into this. And then you have map makers and builders, but yeah, for the life of me, I couldn't explain exactly. It's always been very confusing part of this story. Yeah.
And then the other thing that comes out of this machine that AIM was working with was a different group of Avengers from a different universe. They just faced an incursion, and they came into the 616. And it kind of starts with a murder. We find Hank Pym murdered. And, the murder mystery didn't do anything for me. I feel like they were trying to make it maybe a murder mystery vibe, but it didn't really land. We find out that he was killed by those creatures that became map makers. So that's before they took off and became explorers. And then the whole process of most of this book is figuring out who the hell this Hank Pym is. And then, of course, the Avengers clash. Oh, but before that, the Avengers, when they come to Earth, they seem just like our Avengers heroes. But as soon as they come across civilization, Thor's pissed that they're not all kneeling for him. So he just murders like hundreds of people with a hammer shot to the ground. So clearly they're not benevolent.
They're psychos. And that was the only piece of footage they had, was Thor just lightning bolting a crowd of citizens because they weren't bowing down to him. I found it interesting that it wasn't only the Avengers, it was the OG vintage Avengers.
Yeah.
It was the OG members. It was Wasp and Hank Pym's Ant-Man. And, it was even Iron Man's classic kind of look with the face mask, having the almost horn looking shape to it. And it's extended off of the head, just drawn more modernly with like more grooves and stuff in it. But it was definitely like the vintage Iron Man suit type stuff from the like 70s Avengers. And even the font on the panel, it was like 70s Avengers font when it said the Avengers showed up. So it was very interesting. It was an evil vintage original Avengers crew that we ran into in this. So it was kind of fun. And we learned stuff about them, like Tony. It wasn't Tony. The whole Iron Man reveal there, that was pretty crazy. It was a Jarvis.
It was Jarvis who had killed Tony Stark's dad after he created the Iron Man suit, and then slaughtered Tony as a baby, dude,
in the crib.
Crazy.
Smothered him in the crib. Like, okay, Jarvis.
Okay. And then Iron Man just blows his head off.
I'm pretty sure
he just knocked that thing right off.
He melted his face. He shows up later with bandages all around his face. But yeah, he propulsion blasts him point blank in the face. So that was pretty solid. But yeah, Jarvis, classic Alfred.
Right. So, but yeah, I expected way more out of that. Like they didn't have much of a purpose. They come and go. We beat them. Avengers beat them, our 616. And then the big thing was like Bruce Banner talking to Tony about figuring out the Illuminati and their solutions for the incursions. Right. So were you confused? I swear it was the alternate Bruce Banner talking to Tony for a second until, obviously the tranquilizers I noticed, because he wouldn't need those. And I was like, because they got into a confusing thing where 616 Hulk acted like he was their other Hulk or vice versa, and then he came back to start to talk to Tony. So that was confusing, but it also didn't matter that much.
Well, and the way they worded it made it even more confusing too. So yeah, we find out that the Hulk with this vintage Avengers group has been lobotomized. They just got sick of him having breakouts, so they lobotomized him. He doesn't feel emotion anymore. And Janet, the Wasp, has a controller on her wrist that literally controls the Hulk. It breaks, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of here." They're like, "Wait, Hulk, no, we'll help you out." And he's like, "No, hell no, I'm gone." And so Bruce Banner takes off, and we have two Bruce Banners talking to each other. One's a sociopath, the other is realizing he's a sociopath. And I'm still not positive about which is which, because the way he said it, he dropped into the fight, punched Thor, and then when Tony and Bruce are having that conversation, Tony's like, "Wait, that was you? I thought it was the other one or whatever." And he's like, "Well, I know Thor can take a punch, and I needed to make a point that I was on their side or on your side." And the way I read it, I still wasn't sure. I was still thinking it was the sociopath Hulk, especially when we get down the road. When we get to the epilogue and he's being introduced to the Illuminati, I still feel like that might be sociopath Bruce. I don't know that that's our Bruce that's being introduced to the Illuminati, but I don't remember. Maybe we already know. I just don't remember it, but I just wasn't.
It is 616 though. I looked it up. And it's supposed to be it's 616.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't like how they worded it either. Sure. It was not made clear for a while. No. It was I think they thought the tranquilizers would give it away for us, but then like some of the words just didn't match a little bit.
It didn't, like intentionally, like it didn't. I don't know. And what was the whole point of introducing sociopath Bruce if he's not gonna? I don't know. I was a bit confused by it.
Yeah, and maybe we'll catch something later down the road on our second read through this.
But that scene with Tony was great though.
Yeah, getting past the confusion of it, I loved it. He's just. Bruce is not happy about them reforming the Illuminati, especially not happy that they are building planet-killing devices. But, Tony is pleading his case and in the way he can. That's just what they do. So he was pissed, though. Like we said, he has these tranquilizers. He was getting all this information, getting so mad that he just continuously tranquilized himself so he didn't turn into the Hulk while he was doing this. And it was just such a good scene with those characters a lot.
It was a bit I was reading it as if it was a movie scene playing out. I could totally see the score rising and getting more tense as they're getting further into it. And every time Banner's grilling him, Tony keeps dropping every once in a while, "What's in the case, Bruce? Bruce, are you going to show me what's in the case?" Like the tension kept building up really with it. And I really like that. And at some point he goes, "I'm just going to walk over there and open it if you don't tell me what's in that case." He keeps talking. And then, reveals that it's tranquilizer to calm himself down as he gets him to admit that he reformed the Illuminati. I would love to see this where I wouldn't because of what they would have to do to make it happen. But I would have loved to see RDJ take on this scene with him and Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to really, really hope that they do something at least a little cool. I wouldn't mind even if you don't have a great Hulk scene in Doomsday. Like, I do want to see that kind of Bruce Banner come out like that. I want to see the genius, super capable Bruce Banner that is such a badass, even if he's not a Hulk, and calling out some maybe moral complexities on things, getting mad, like fighting his anger. Well, that seems like a cool way you could use him, and it worked really well here, at least.
Yeah,
he was also interested in how they started forming that Avengers machine. They basically kind of deduced like why Tony wants it the way it is, like so he can stay home and work on the real problem, which is incursions, while he already built a team so powerful that they could handle whatever needs to be handled out there. That was also interesting.
Yeah. No, like I said, by the end of it, the way the writing came to fruition at the end of these issues, I was like, okay. And I started reading the next issue and I was like, damn it, this isn't the one we're covering. But I kept reading a little bit more into that, and I did have a couple comments just on that because it has to do with the Infinity story. It throws a whole flashback to Cap and his interaction with the Illuminati, and now we're seeing Bruce Banner being brought into the fold with the Illuminati. Cap's venture didn't work, obviously. That was prior. He tried to use the Infinity Gauntlet to stop an incursion, broke the gauntlet. They all lost their minds and got pissed at him. And he's like, all right, I get this is bad, but don't create a world-ending weapon. You know this is going to do. And they end up having to wipe his brain because they can't trust him anymore and put him back. And now he's remembering in the next issue. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that one because I know it's starting to get juicy.
It really starts heating up now. I'm really excited to move on. I kind of think there's a slow new Avengers and like another slow Avengers before it really takes off. Because then it becomes almost another Civil War, like Tony's team versus Cap's team leading up to Secret Wars as well. And it's pretty intense.
Right.
Pretty intense. But yeah, if we kind of mentioned it, but at the very end, the last page is Tony Stark inviting Bruce into the Illuminati. So I thought that was really cool. You know, that really gets you pumped to continue reading.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, it's great getting those characters and the scenes written with them, and some of the best stuff that comes out of that is the dialogue between these great minds and the philosophical differences they have and the moral and ethical dilemmas they talk about. And it's always good writing when it comes to the Illuminati. So adding Bruce Banner into the fold is going to be great. And honestly, that's kind of what this volume was missing. There wasn't a lot of like deep talks. There wasn't a lot of, I mean, the Banner and Tony Stark conversation was great. It wasn't philosophical really, but I think
in a way, philosophically, the moral complexities of the bomb, the Earth bomb, in a way.
Yeah. So they got there a little bit in that last issue, but for the rest of the volume, there just wasn't a lot of that to it. There wasn't a lot of great action either. It was probably one of the weaker volumes, I'd say, up to this point.
Yeah. I might have it as definitely bottom 3, which I think it's like either Avengers 1, Avengers 2, or Avengers 5 is my bottom.
Okay. And I'd have to go back to check, but yeah, I'd probably agree.
And Avengers 3, we didn't actually cover that in its own episode because that is included in the Infinity kind of trade that collects that whole event. So we have 3 separate Infinity episodes covering that event. So that actually would include your New Avengers Volume 3 and New Avengers Volume 2 and Avengers Volume 3, which is why they don't have their own episodes. Anyway,
got it.
That's about it. Yeah, not a lot happened, dude. The roadie thing in the beginning felt kind of like a filler, and then the Avengers come into town. It felt like filler. It's like the only important thing happened was the map makers. We get to see how they were created, and then this Bruce and Tony thing. It seems like, that's about all there was to take out of this one.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. I try to like think of some questions to really dive into, but not a lot of MCU connections that I could really make.
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, though, because now I am starting to get in the vibe that you could see something like that in Doomsday Secret Wars. That's exactly right up the alley of what I kind of expect every now and then is like a rogue group of Avengers showing up, and then you got to beat them, and they go something like that. I could see happening, but
yeah, for sure. Well, and I know that fight. So when we got into it with this volume between the Avengers and the Vintage Avengers, the evil ones, we've seen that in another issue because it skipped when we went from issue 26 to 27 or something like that. We went from our Avengers talking about how they could track this Vintage Avengers group, and Tony was going to look up what the model look like. What did this Iron Man suit look like? Maybe I can track it. And then the next scene we see them, they're in the middle of the fight in the city with this Avengers group. So they had already clashed, started the fight. That happened in another issue because I remember reading how that whole fight kicked off, and we didn't read that in this volume here. Yeah. They were just already in the fight when we pulled up. So I know we got a more detailed fight. I remember feeling like it was pretty cool. But
yeah, it was okay. And they did jump around a lot. Like we saw the Vintage Avenger Hank Pym dead before we saw them come to the 616.
Right.
So it was all kind of all over the place.
He just got his neck snapped by an adaptoid, which we saw in the fight. It was like, oh, okay.
An adaptoid. Yeah, that's what those things are called that become map makers. Yeah. But yeah. But I was listening to our New Avengers Volume 1 thing to kind of make sure I had the the blue sky, red sky thing down. But then and this is full spoilers for the big reveal, and time runs out, which is quite a few volumes down the line. But the whole thing is about Doomsday, and talking about Dr. Doom isn't a bad idea. But the big spoilers for that, because Raboom Alal is said to have started like the first unnatural death that started the domino effect that leads to what we see as incursions. And then in a New Avengers Volume 1, Dr. Doom is like surprised at this incursion. He picks up that piece to study it, investigate it, figure out incursions. He's questioning the Reed Richards and them leading up to Infinity, but he was responsible for it that whole time. How weird is that? So like when I looked it up, apparently it's true. It's just when he went on his multiversal journey, obviously the rules of time don't apply as much. So like when he went through that library or something to get closer and closer to the Beyonders, like he basically went out of time and became this. And it was so cool to think about Doctor Doom as just like trying to figure out the consequences of his own future self's actions in New Avengers Volume 1. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And I remember that. Yeah, I think there's like the builder, one of the robots gets shot down over Doom's castle, and he noticed that it's some foreign entity or foreign deal and starts investigating it. It reminds me of, God, there's another movie or show of something like that, where this person's just investigating it down to figure out this whole reason that caused this issue in his life, and it ends up that he was the figure in it. I know Flash has a kind of variation of that when his mom's killed by Reverse Flash, and ends up he was actually there on the scene too during that day, and a bunch of confusing stuff. But yeah, there's another story that's closer to that. But yeah, it's a trippy time travel type of doubled up storytelling, with Doctor Doom somehow being at the beginning and realizing what's going on after he himself has started this. But I do recall them explaining it pretty decently as far as that goes.
Yeah. So that wraps it up for this comic talk. But one more thing, dude. So we're looking at the Avengers trailer coming out tomorrow, potentially. So let me just ask, what do you expect to come out of, whether it comes out tomorrow or not, what do you expect to see from the first Doomsday teaser trailer?
I don't expect a lot. I expect maybe one reveal of a cast member outside of the chairs we already got. Maybe. I think for the most part, we're going to see the characters we already know that are involved in this, and we're going to kind of get a lot of generic Doom talk. Not even, no pun intended, not Dr. Doom talk, just like doom and gloom, like negative, like stuff is happening, setting up some tragedy kind of deal. But I think it's going to be a bit vague. So I'm not expecting a whole lot to come out of here. The biggest thing I'm expecting is at least one new cast member to be revealed.
I'm on the other side. I think that they need to make this. I think that they're going to try to make it the best trailer they've ever had in their life. I think they're going to, I want them. I think they should use this as an opportunity to get the audience like scared of Doctor Doom, like make him seem like just a terrifying threat, and get people fully on board, because this is the riskiest Avengers movie ever, period. This is the least trust we've had in Marvel in general, period. Although they've gained it back after Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts. But I expect some serious fireworks, even if it is. I really do just expect it. I've certainly no new characters that we haven't seen from Chairwatch or anything. I don't even expect a lot of characters, maybe just your main, like your Thor, your Shuri, maybe, I don't know, your Doctor Strange. But yeah, I expect a ton of Doom dialogue, and hopefully just like great dialogue, and just a little sense of who Doom is, what he is, why is he coming. And yeah, pretty dark, pretty vague, but I think, man, they have to make this hit really hard, and I think they will. I'm expecting something big, setting myself up for failure, and it's just a damn trailer, and I'm just ready to go. But
it's just the teaser to start it all off. It's not even a full trailer probably, but I like it. I mean, I think they absolutely need to knock this out of the park project wise. Yeah, we'll see. I think it'd be cool. At least maybe we get a quick glimpse at the OG X-Men in the teaser. That would be pretty fun to see. But yeah, I expect I'm going with one reveal, one big reveal that we did not know is going to be in it.
See, I thought the Endgame trailer was nuts. I remember loving the Endgame trailer, like even the teaser one that came out first. Oh, it's a cool profile photo, Chef Killer. Yeah, I love the Endgame trailer, but I do expect very similar. Yeah, like the first few minutes of the movie. And I mean, yeah, it's a teaser.
I'm trying to remember. Okay, yeah. So wasn't the first Endgame trailer, wasn't it released during the Super Bowl? Like it was a full 2-minute trailer, the first thing they released, I'm pretty sure.
And it was Tony like turning on his mask.
It was Tony on the ship, right? And he's talking to Pepper during it, and then it's Chris Evans saying, "We have to win." You know, I don't know what'll happen if we don't, kind of deal. So it was a lot of the stuff from the first 15 minutes.
Didn't the compound get destroyed in that teaser? Or was
I believe it did. I think it. Yeah, I don't know. It may have been in the second trailer, but they did show Thanos. Well, it didn't show Thanos, but it showed the Avengers compound getting hit by Thanos' missile. We didn't know it was Thanos' at the time. And one of that there. But Yeah, so that's well, and I kind of agree with it. With that, like I said, I don't think we're going to get a huge reveal in the plot. I think it's going to be a lot of setup and maybe one cast reveal. But
I think it's a great opportunity because we've seen Thanos like 8 years before he came out. And we've never, I mean, we've seen the post credit scene in Fantastic Four, honestly, was not great for like the Doom presence. Like he was just there, it didn't really give you that, like, oh shit, that's Doctor Doom. It looked like kind of a Halloween costume. His mask looked kind of cheap. Like it didn't have that, holy cow, that's Doom. It
I
wasn't,
thought it
didn't,
was
didn't do
weak.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this trailer needs to do just that.
So I'm going through it. About half the trailer is flashbacks. Like it shows Tony and then it shows his origin scenes in the Endgame trailer. And then it shows Cap and then it shows scenes from his previous movies. So there's a lot of previous stuff in the trailer. It shows New York being abandoned with Cap talking about it. We do see Hawkeye running through the compound. We see him crying after Natasha's dead. We see Rocket on War Machine's shoulders. So we see some stuff here and there, and then Thor catching Stormbreaker behind Captain Marvel to end it. So that was some cool, little stuff here and there. But yeah, a lot of it is in the first 15.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today. Thank you for joining us for this comic book review. And stay tuned for our continuing coverage of Stranger Things. Check out Lub on YouTube for his video game streams. Green Lantern Rebirth looks like the next comic we'll cover here in a few weeks. And then probably like a Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow for that show coming out, because that trailer's coming out tomorrow too. And I'm honestly excited about that. So yeah, again, we're at Why So Sidious Pod, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining. Intro video.